me down, then build me up. Pour some wine into my cup. Be the courage in my chest. My flesh must die before it rests. But in the breaking I am whole. In every loss you make me bold. I have fallen in love with you. I am becoming just like you. One day I'll be at home with you. At the start of it all, you were in love with me. Hollowed out, completely clean. The rugged cross of truth I'll sing, to show the beauty that remains, the ageless wonders of your name. Staying on the narrow line, in the end you'll say you're mine. I have fallen in love with you. I am becoming just like you. One day I'll be at home with you. At the start of it all, you were in love with me. There'll be no more lonely, tearful nights. What you are doing is true and right. You have made my spirit feel alright and turn my darkness into light. I have fallen in love with you. I am becoming just like you. One day I'll be at home with you. At the start of it all, you were in love with me. In love with me. At the start of it all, you were in love with me. You were in love with me. At the start of it all, you were in love with me. You were in love with me. At the start of it all, you were in love with me.
Hello and welcome to Kingdom of Context. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, sweetie.
Shabbat shalom, babe.
Thank you for joining me here today. We're doing our Sabbath broadcast, guys. We're picking back up in the book of Joshua, chapters 10 through 12 today. And we want to thank you guys for being here. I'm enjoying going through these books in the middle of the Bible.
Yes, me too.
A lot of times in Torah communities, people just focus on the Torah portions. They repeat them every year. We used to do that. And then we realized people don't know the middle of the Bible either.
Yeah.
So we might want to focus on that a little bit as well. And it's also a great refresher for us to go through these middle books. It makes the Torah come alive. You get to see the application of like who is doing the Torah well and who's not doing it well
Yeah.
at this point in history. And I think it's important for our edification as believers. I believe Jesus was correct when he said we should live on every word of the mouth of God.
Right.
Not just repeating the first 5 books every year, not just we consider these what the Jewish community would call the Ketuvim. We consider these middle books as just as important because these are patriarchs of the faith who were defending the commandments, upholding the commandments, and sometimes transgressing them. So it's important for us to learn from their lives.
Yeah, I would say that they're just as authoritative as the Torah. I mean, like it's all the word of God. Like it's all God breathed. All of it is profitable for our instruction. So I don't think it's wise to just focus on only a few as if they're the only authority, because we see authority all through the scriptures.
Yeah, we do. Okay, put a 1 in the chat if our mics are sounding good. I think they are. I think everything's on point. Everything's 5 by 5. We also just want to draw a quick attention, guys. Thank you, Tyler, for the reminder. We would like to encourage everyone to pray for tomorrow and what is it, Phoenix, and downtown Phoenix at the, I think it's the NFL stadium,
Yes.
where just pray for everyone's safety.
Yeah, actually, I think that there's multiple memorial services going on at the same day, because I thought I heard about Denver Stadium is
Okay.
going to be having a memorial service as well. So my dad and my stepmom have traveled down to the funeral in Arizona. So obviously we encourage prayer for everyone involved, but also I kind of have a personal stake today because my dad felt led to this incident. He is one of many people right now who has been, my dad has been a faithful guy, but I guess this event reignited something in him, and, has renewed, and he already had a really deep renewed faith for the last 10 years, especially actually since my brother's passing. There's been many dark nights of the soul for him in terms of, growth in his faith, but he has felt something deeply moving about this experience that we all went through with Brother Charlie. And so they're on their way down there, and just prayers for everyone involved, leaders, political people, everyday civilians, Christian brethren, curious people. Let's just pray for no more bloodshed at any of these services.
Yeah, the president's going to be there in Phoenix, so their Secret Service is going to be sweeping the area for bomb threats, and apparently they've already apprehended one guy this morning, from him having a gun, him not identifying as any type of law enforcement, but also just being there with a gun, and obviously, supposedly not really cooperating, so he's not acting in good faith to explain who he is. So yeah, we're just praying that there will be that the Father will keep anything nefarious from happening. So if you guys would do that with us, because we're praying for the welfare of all peoples, regardless of their beliefs.
Yes, we seek the peace of the country we are scattered into.
All right. I guess we can jump in.
Okay.
We can jump in. We're in Joshua chapter 10. That's where we're picking up this week. Last week was 7 through 9. This week we'll go 10 through 12. Joshua chapter 10. Now, it says, now Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, heard that Joshua had captured Ai and devoted it to destruction, doing to Ai and its kings as he had done to Jericho and its kings, and that the people of Gibeon had made peace with Israel and were living near them. So Adoni-Zedek, I wonder where near. Interesting. Adoni-Zedek and his people were greatly alarmed because Gibeon was a great city, like one of the royal cities. It was larger than Ai, and all its men were mighty. Therefore, Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, sent word to, it's a funny name, Hoham. That's hilarious. I just don't understand the transliteration. I wonder what it's like in the original language.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he sent word to Hoham, the king of Hebron, the Piram, king of Jarmut, Japhia, king of Lachish, and Deber, king of Eglon, saying, come up and help me. We will attack Gibeon because they have made peace with Joshua and the Israelites. So the 5 kings of the Amorites, the kings of Jerusalem, Hebron, Jarmut, Lachish, I can't say that, Lachish, and Eglon, joined forces and advanced with all their armies. They camped before Gibeon, and waged war against it. Then the men of Gibeon sent word to Joshua in the camp at Gilgal, do not abandon your servants. Come quickly and save us. Help us, because all the kings of the Amorites from the hill country have joined forces against us. So Joshua and his whole army, including all the mighty men of valor, came from Gilgal. The Lord said to Joshua, do not be afraid of them, for I have delivered them into your hand. Not one of them shall stand against you. After marching all night from Gilgal, Joshua caught them by surprise. And the Lord threw them into confusion before Israel, who defeated them in a great slaughter at Gibeon. He pursued them along the ascent to Beth-horon and struck them down as far as Azekah and Makkedah. As they fled before Israel along the descent from Beth-horon to Azekah, the Lord cast down on them large hailstones from the sky, and more of them were killed by the hailstones than by the swords of the Israelites. On the day the Lord gave Joshua the Amorites over to the Israelites, Joshua spoke to the Lord in the presence of Israel. O sun, stand still over Gibeon. O moon, over the valley of Ajalon. So the sun stood still, and the moon stopped until the nation took vengeance upon its enemies. Is this not written in the book of Joshua? So the sun stopped in the middle of the sky, and the delayed going down about a full day. There has been no day like it before or since, when the Lord listened to the voice of a man, because the Lord fought for Israel. Then Joshua returned with all Israel to camp at Gilgal. Now the 5 kings had fled and hidden in the cave at Makkedah. And Joshua was informed, the 5 kings have been found. They're hiding in the cave at Makkedah. So Joshua said, roll large stones against the mouth of the cave and post men there to guard them. But you do not stop there. Pursue your enemies and attack them from behind. Do not let them reach their cities, for the Lord your God has delivered them into your hand. So Joshua and the Israelites continued to inflict a terrible slaughter until they had finished them off, and the remaining survivors retreated to the fortified cities. The whole army returned safely to Joshua in the camp at Makkedah, and no one dared to utter a word against the Israelites. Then Joshua said, open the mouth of the cave and bring those 5 kings out to me. So they brought the 5 kings out of the cave, the kings of Jerusalem, Hebron, Jarmuth, Lachish, and Eglon. And when they had brought the kings to Joshua, he summoned all the men of Israel and said to the army commanders who had accompanied him, come here and put your feet on the necks of these kings. So the commander came forward and put their feet on their necks. Do not be afraid or discouraged, Joshua said. Be strong and courageous, for the Lord will do this to all the enemies you fight. After this, Joshua struck down and killed the kings, and he hung their bodies on 5 trees and left them there until evening. At sunset, Joshua ordered that they be taken down from the trees and thrown into the cave which they had hidden. Then large stones were placed against the mouth of the cave, and the stones are there to this day. Sounds like a next Indiana Jones right there. Let's go find that cave. On that day, Joshua captured Makkedah and put it to the sword along with its king. He devoted to destruction everyone in the city, leaving no survivors. So he did to the king of Makkedah as he had done to the king of Jericho. Then Joshua and all Israel with him moved on from Makkedah to Libnah and fought against Libnah. And the Lord also delivered that city and its king into the hand of Israel. And Joshua put all the people to the sword, leaving no survivors. And he did to the king of Libnah as he had done to the king of Jericho. And Joshua and all Israel with him moved on from Libnah to Lachish. There they laid siege to it and fought against it. And the Lord delivered Lachish into the hand of Israel, and Joshua captured it on the 2nd day. He put all the people to the sword, just as he had done in Libnah. At that time, Horam, the king of Gezer, went to help Lachish, but Joshua struck him down along with his people, leaving no survivors. So Joshua moved on from Lachish to Eglon, and all Israel with him. They laid siege to it, fought against it. That day they captured Eglon and put it to the sword, and Joshua devoted to destruction everyone in the city, just as he had done in Lachish. Then Joshua and all Israel with him went up from Eglon to Hebron and fought against it. They captured it and put it to the sword, its kings, all its villages, and all the people. Joshua left no survivors, just as he had done at Eglon. He devoted to destruction Hebron and everyone in it. Finally, Joshua and all Israel with him turned toward Debir and fought against it. And they captured Debir, its king, and all its villages. They put them to the sword and devoted to destruction everyone in the city, leaving no survivors. Joshua did to Hebron and as he had done to Libnah and its king. So Joshua conquered the whole region, the hill country, the Negev, the foothills, and the slopes, together with all their kings, leaving no survivors. He devoted to destruction everything that breathed, just as the Lord, the God of Israel, had commanded. Joshua conquered the area from Kadesh Barnea to Gaza, and the whole region of Goshen as far as Gibeon. Because the Lord, the God of Israel, fought for Israel, Joshua captured all these kings and their land in one campaign. Then Joshua returned with all Israel to the camp at Gilgal.
People are saying that my mic doesn't sound like mine.
It may not be.
How's that, guys?
It should be on now.
Check 1 2 1 2. Let us know.
Okay.
So something I wanted to mention, I don't know if this counts as prolepsis, but the language is very similar to the proleptic language we see in the New Testament about being born again. God is saying, I have delivered them into your hand. And this is before they've gone and at their hand.
Sorry. Just trying to
Got it?
get this lighting right. I need a professional lighting person. Go ahead. Before they were delivered into this hand. Okay.
Yeah, like he's saying, he's kind of speaking in a past tense that I have delivered these people into your hand. Like they're already defeated. but the physical battles with all of these cities still have to happen. Those people still need to go and receive them into their hand at the sword, and finish the work of it. So I don't know. It just seems to me an example of a similar kind of language. I don't know if it's exactly prolepsis.
I'm not sure that I've ever heard this being used as an example of prolepsis.
Right. But to me, it's like a similar concept of the Lord is declaring something is done because he's doing it for them, but it still needs to be completed. Like the moment he says, I've delivered them into your hand, doesn't necessarily mean that they've finished the job, that they've gone, because they had quite a few cities to go through to take over.
Yeah. It seems like this language of I've delivered them into your hand is almost as if it's an idiom.
Yeah.
We see it in other places in scripture, like we read previously in Samuel, where he was like, I have not delivered them into your hand. Do not go up.
Right.
They went up and they got defeated.
Right.
It just seems like it's almost as if the Father is saying, like, I'm not gonna be there for you. I'm not gonna help you. And how does he actually help them in these battles? I don't know. Are there angels literally in the battlefield, like tripping up enemy soldiers or grabbing their shirts and causing them to swing slower or whatever? Like, I mean, how in the world does this work out, to where the Father says, I've delivered them into your hand, meaning they're guaranteed a victory, knowing there still has to be the actual busy work of fighting.
Right.
So I don't have the most profound theological answer for you in that regard.
Oh, I didn't expect one.
Yeah. But it just seems like an idiom for like, hey, I've given you favor to win this.
Yeah, he's in some way he has prepared these people to be defeated by these other people.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, like we talked about last time, I think it was chapter 8. The Gibeonites came, acted like they were from a far distant land, but they weren't. They were from close by. They manufactured, their sandals and their clothing and their bread to look as if they went on a great journey. Joshua and the elders of Israel didn't do their proper investigation.
Yeah.
And they kind of hastily made a covenant with these guys to say, we'll protect you from all these other Amorite kings. And here in chapter 10, these other Amorite kings immediately go attack Gibeon.
Yeah.
Now, this was already on Joshua's radar, so to speak. Like he's already planning to take out all these people anyway.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of ironic. Like the moment they find out Gibeon is allied with Israel, they're like, instead of going to attack Israel, go attack Gibeon. Right? It's kind of interesting how they were ready to cannibalize themselves immediately as opposed to attacking Israel. Why didn't these cities round up all their troops like they did against Gibeon and go attack Israel the moment they crossed the Jordan and were about to attack Jericho?
Maybe God just like removes a few brain cells in people's heads. They just can't think straight.
Yeah, it's so weird to me because like if in chapter 2, if Rahab's words were correct, that we've heard about you, what you did to Og and Sihon. We heard about how God brought you out of Egypt, and the people's hearts are melting with fear. Their knees are trembling like water. If that's the case, did these other kings feel that way as well? Is that why they didn't immediately attack the Israelites when they crossed the Jordan? Or how about the 6 days that they're in camp and circling Jericho?
Yeah.
Like send the messengers out. It's not that far. It's a couple hundred miles. Day 1, the messenger, or day 3, the messenger rises like, hey, they've got their military and their priests and the ark of their God out there, and they're circling Jericho right now.
Yeah.
Like they're aggressing upon Jericho. Rally the troops, everybody. Let's go fight these guys. They didn't do that.
Yeah.
They didn't do that. They just hung back. They let Jericho take on its own battles. And so it's almost as if they didn't have some sort of allied treaty with Jericho, right?
Yeah.
Jericho was just left to defend itself.
Or even if they did, it's not like they necessarily were honoring we don't know that they honored treaties the way God commands people to honor oaths like that. So,
or
you never know with a pagan nation.
Is it because of what we read last week? And was it chapter 8 or 9, where they went to fight Ai, and the first time they got defeated and were routed and turned back? Remember, 36 people were killed.
Yes.
They lost their courage. They were fearful. The Israelite army turned back. Did that word spread and then embolden these nations to be like, okay, well, we're going to go, let's start fighting now. You know what I mean? Because maybe we can overcome them. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm clearly speculating. Tell us what you think in the comments. What do you think caused this group of 5 Amorite kings to suddenly decide, all right, now we need to fight, you know? So, because we talked about previously in chapters 1 through 3, how it was common knowledge that they all knew the Israelites were coming back.
Yeah.
They were literally fortifying their cities for this exact event.
Yeah.
Like they were getting extra militarized for this exact event. And they knew they were coming back, but yet they just let Ai and Bethel and Jericho just fend for themselves, as opposed to confederating and trying to take on Israel. Clearly it didn't matter. Even though they got together as 5 kings, as put all their armies together and try and fight, clearly it didn't matter. They're not being able to stand against Israel, as the text says. But I just think it's an interesting in trying to understand like why the sequence of events happens. Because to me, in my opinion, if the Lord had not done these miraculous things to make them afraid, if there had not been word in the land that, hey, they're coming back to take what's theirs, which is the land of Abraham, the land of Shem.
Yeah.
And if they didn't know that they were there by sedition already, they were illegally there in the eyes of the God of Israel already, then they would have just, oh, here come these Israelites through the wilderness. They're coming up to the plains of Midian at the base of Mount Nebo. Like, we got our scouts see the land. We see what's happening here. Like they had scouts going out through the land all the time doing stuff like that to see what's going on. Right. You can see them from Jericho, from the sloping hillside of Jericho across the Jordan. You can see them moving. It's 3 million people. It's hard to hide.
Yeah.
Right. So why didn't they just send word out to all the Amorite kings throughout Canaan that are still there? Now's the time. Get all your armies ready. So it seems as if the Father systematically, through the wonders in Egypt, through the defeat of Og and Sihon, through the standing of the Jordan River, like we read in chapter 3 and 4, it seems like the Lord had caused these people to just be like, let's just hole up in our cities, But then the moment they see Gibeon has allied themselves with Israel, for some weird reason, they decide, oh, let's get out of our cities and let's go attack them now.
Yeah.
As opposed to holding up in our cities. It's a weird mentality to me. It's almost as if they're thinking, it's almost as if there was internal pressure within their own kingdoms going, we can't just sit here.
Yeah.
They're actually gaining alliance with people that were our allies previously.
Yeah. I would think that it's more about that, because clearly, God talks about the fear and the dread of him being on the nations surrounding Israel because of the signs and wonders that he's been working and the destruction that they've been able to wreak, so far. So yeah, I think they probably still had that fear and dread of the people of Israel, but people who, they must have assumed that the Gibeonites, just because they're with an oath and a treaty with Israel, they must not be under the protection of the God of Israel. So we're safe to go attack them. There was a super chat from Juan up at the top.
Okay.
Before those.
Juan, thank you for the super chat. Juan is saying, I want to thank you, Sean. I didn't know you could not observe Passover without being circumcised. I scheduled my circumcision for October 16th in Lebanon, Michigan. I fly into Missouri. Okay. I fly into Missouri on October 15th. Procedure done 16th. I fly back to where you are. I'm fly back to Columbus on the 17th. Thank you.
Hallelujah, brother.
Yeah, awesome, brother. Thanks for the act of courage, bro. That's amazing.
Awesome.
That is amazing. Yeah.
That's so wonderful.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because it's a sign of the covenant that only you and your wife see.
Yeah. Yeah.
You more than anybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every day you go to the bathroom, sign of the covenant, it's in your hand.
Yeah.
Like, oh, by the way, you're in covenant with Yahweh.
Anytime you're trying to use it for an unrighteous thing, that sign is right. The sign is right there in front of you.
Thank you so much, Juan. I appreciate the generous support as well, brother. That's amazing.
That's awesome, brother.
Thank you. And as well, thank you for the gifted memberships. Go ahead, sweetie.
Prayers for safe travel, safe procedure, great healing afterwards. That's wonderful, brother.
That's awesome, man. So yeah, and to everyone who may have received a membership, we do not control how those are given out. YouTube does that randomly, I think. So if you did receive a membership, you have access to our additional content. Be sure to check it out. Hopefully it's a blessing to you. Okay. So a lot going on in this chapter. A lot of battles in this chapter. The initial big one, though, is these 5 Amorite kings. So apparently, before the Gibeonites in the days of David, before they controlled Jerusalem, it was the Amorites controlled Jerusalem.
Yeah.
So Jerusalem was just a city. It
Mhm.
doesn't tell us who built it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't. It was just a city. Oh,
I forgot I had that in my pocket.
so it was just a city in that region, and then later Yahweh decides, in the days of David, he decides, I'm going to put my name
Yeah.
in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Because we talked about this reading through Samuel, 1st and 2nd Samuel, how the tabernacle of the Lord, Samuel prophesying, the priests ministering, they were in different places like Bethel.
Mhm.
What was the other one? Mitzvah and Gilgal, a different
Yeah.
Gilgal.
Yeah.
And so that's where and it traveled around. It wasn't in the same spot every
Right.
time. And so they weren't in Jerusalem back then.
Yeah.
you know?
I wonder why Jerusalem.
Right.
I wonder why that specific pinpoint on the map.
I suspect that it could have been. So my initial speculation on the original location of the Garden of Eden would be where the biblical place of Bethel would be.
Yeah.
So I suspect, 40, 50 miles away to Jerusalem, could possibly, when the kingdom sets down, that's where the mountain, the seventh mountain that sits in the center of the New Jerusalem, where Yeshua and the Father's thrones are. I suspect that might be the actual pinpoint location. That's my speculation, which is why I'm going through this right now with you, to be like, hey, what's the reasoning here? It was just seems like a random city.
Yeah.
We don't have any previous history of
does.
Jerusalem.
Yeah.
It just seems like a random location amongst these cities that were built not by Abraham. It doesn't say
Right.
Abraham built this city.
Yeah.
It doesn't say Jacob. Remember, Jacob built some cities.
Yeah.
in the
No,
Book of
I would
Jubilees?
think this was built by Canaanites.
Right. So but is it about the actual city or is it about the location?
Right.
Because when his kingdom comes, there will be a specific location where his throne is. So it makes me think this. Anyway, a lot here. And it starts detailing. I think we're going to get in chapter 13, I believe. You get the list of 31 kings. But right now it's just giving us, 10 or 12 of them that he actually ended up fighting in his first campaign to take out this specific area. So there's a lot here. Of course, the big moment here, extra daylight so they could keep fighting. Do you remember, you used to watch a lot of Chuck Missler just like I did?
Yes.
Right. Back in 2012, man, I used to fall asleep listening to Chuck Missler videos.
I used to clean houses. I was did construction cleaning. So I'd be cleaning these big empty mansions and have that in my earphones, listen to old brother Chuck.
Now, he used to talk about a Chinese record of the kings that they had found, which it was supposedly like almost 4,000 years old.
Yeah.
Which would be the days of Joshua,
right?
3,800 years old. That records a day with 10 extra hours.
Interesting.
Or actually, excuse me, a night with 10 extra hours.
Interesting.
So meaning the sun was somewhere else across the plane of the earth.
Yeah.
And therefore it was nighttime for them, but it was the long nights. And they were confused about the long nights.
Interesting.
So yeah. Hey, welcome, Josh. Yeah, it does take a lot of faith. And this is a beautiful moment here to show you in Genesis 1 that man was given dominion over the earth. And Joshua, walking in righteousness, is exhibiting dominion over the things pertaining to the earth. And so it's a very fascinating concept here. And no, I don't think it changed the calendar. There's so many speculations about this, sweetie. I've heard people say, oh, it must have changed the calendar. Must be when they first got off course after they'd already got reset in the Exodus. Then they got off course again, and just 40 years later, just
by God's own hand.
Yeah, and got with no further mention by God, who's speaking through the prophets for all these hundreds of years afterwards to get them back on course. But no, I just think that things continued as normal because you're not revolving 1,000 miles an hour.
Right.
You're not going around the sun. You're not in a heliocentric model. So that's what I was bringing up Chuck Missler for, because he would always, in addition to the Chinese record he mentioned, he always talk about how modern Christian scientists and geologists would try to assume there was some massive earthquake that affected the wobble of the earth that allowed for this extra daylight to happen, or this moment of the appearance of the sun and moon to stop. Not that the sun and moon actually stopped,
Oh,
but it was
okay.
just the appearance that it stopped because of this incredible earthquake that's affected the wobble and the tilt of the earth to make it seem as if temporarily that there was a extra daylight. So that's the links that you have to go through when you don't believe what Genesis 1 says.
Yeah.
Right. So we're here at Joshua chapter 10, which is several books past Genesis. So do we ignore all the previous context of the story that the Father's telling us? Right. So the opening setting of the story is Genesis 1, which is describing a firmament enclosed reality in which the sun, moon, and stars are placed in the layers of the firmament, shining down on the earth as lights for days, seasons, signs, and times. We're not in a heliocentric model, guys. We're not in it. We're not on a ball spinning at approximately 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, going in an elliptical orbit around a gaseous fireball that's going off of some sort of physics that we can't even replicate. To which they don't explain how, like, the 3 million miles closer that we would be during the wintertime, somehow the Earth is not warmer during that time in this elliptical orbit in the heliocentric model. Long story short, we're not in the heliocentric model. That is a later construct of philosophers based off philosophy. A lot of people don't realize that it's actually based off a philosophic premise. It's not based off even a scientific premise. The scriptures, the word of our incredible loving creator, teach us that we're actually in a firmament enclosed reality, where we have a solid structured arched dome firmament that encircles and encloses us, and that there's multiple layers to it, of which the creator is actually at the top layer above us. And the sun, moon, and stars are in between us and the creator. Okay. So whenever your child may ask you, where's God? You can literally show him with a very crude drawing. You can show him he's at the top of this incredibly large house that he made, that he named heaven, by the way. All the structure of the firmament that encloses us, he called that heaven. And then the land that we live on inside of this enclosure, he called the earth. So it's very interesting that suddenly a story like this makes complete sense. Like it's very plausible at this point. It's like, oh, if these are just pieces that move in a circle above us, you can stop those pieces.
Yep.
The crust of the earth doesn't fall off.
Yeah.
There's no problems.
Especially if those pieces obey the Lord who created them and set them in their courses, like it's not this random clockmaker thing where God just set the clock and then he steps away. Like God was directly involved in stopping those luminaries from moving, and those luminaries, to whatever extent they have sentience, I don't know, but the word talks about there being a covenant with the luminaries. So, to whatever extent that, I don't know what that looks like. There's angels, practically.
There's angels in Enoch that actually
the angels.
They dictate the movements of the sun, moon, and stars.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the funny thing, that people accuse us constantly of like putting God in a box. And I'm like, we're just putting him into the words that he gave us and the definitions of those words. And in my opinion, it's everybody outside of that putting him in a box of their human philosophies. And this is a big, huge one. They have to go and put God and God's word in all kinds of boxes to make these things make sense on a heliocentric model, in a Trinitarian paradigm, in a everybody burning in hell for all eternity versus going up to heaven right when you die. Like all these paradigms and these philosophies that mankind has made up, they bring those boxes to the scriptures and say, oh, here, well, we can't interpret it this way because it has to fit into this box. And this, when you don't put him in those boxes, it makes everything so much easier. It's so much simpler. It's so much more straight to the point. Like there isn't a need for all of this making it fit into the worldview, because we're going off of his worldview and just his clear words.
Yep.
So yeah, this is another example of, that it makes this passage so much easier to read and accept and believe when you have a proper understanding of what his creation really looks like.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's like, oh, okay. he stopped them. Makes sense. He can do that.
Yeah.
They're,
Yes.
they're inside their own little passageways inside the firmament.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. Keep them, start them up again. There's no damage to the earth.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah. The plants are going to be okay with, 10 more hours of night over in
Right.
China. They're, that it's just going to be an inconvenience for the people trying to do things.
That's right. Just like the plants were okay for the 24 hours on day 3 before the sun, moon, and
Right.
stars were created on day 4.
Right.
So, yeah. So it's interesting that it just reminds you there's never been a day like this.
Yeah.
So, nor since. And I know a lot of people will ask, what about the day of the Lord, which says the sun and moon are darkened, the moon will not give its light? Christ talks about this, Matthew 24. It doesn't say they stop in the sky.
Right.
It just says that they're darkened. And I think that there is a reason for that. I think that there's a couple reasons for that we've talked about in the past, as far as the energy surge when he opens the firmament. Isaiah 30 talks about the sun and moon shining 7 times brighter than they normally would. But then it talks about thick clouds of darkness that are actually covering the sky, which is would blot out the sun to a degree as well and lessen its light, because there was a massive earthquake on the day of the Lord and all the cities of the earth are destroyed. So I imagine there's a lot of rampant fires destroying these cities.
Yeah.
That's what happens when there's earthquakes in major cities. Buildings fall, fires start, massive smoke plumes go up into the atmosphere and spread out. I mean, we live here in the mountains in the Rockies, and whenever there's a fire 300 miles away, our city, our little town, is covered in smoke.
Yeah.
And you can't see.
Yeah, you can't see the mountains.
You can't see the normal distances that
Yeah.
you could see. Like normally we can see almost 200 miles away, depends on which peak you're standing on.
Yeah.
But when there's a forest fire and our city's covered in smoke, you can't see 10 miles away.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Even just changes in the atmosphere in terms of moisture.
Yeah.
Like sometimes there's a specific mountain range south of our town. It's called the Mummy Range. And on some days, it looks like it's 100 miles closer to us than it actually really is. It's like this huge part of the horizon. And then other days, when there's less moisture in the sky, it looks as far away as it is. So yeah, it's even just changing the moisture in the sky can have a massive effect on, our line of sight and what we're seeing.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Okay, so do you have any other commentary on this massive event here? A lot of people ask about the Book of Jasher. If you guys are interested, guys, we've done an entire Honor at Kings. Go to our Honor at Kings playlist, season 4, and we talk on the Book of Jasher and why. I don't believe that this particular reference to the Book of Jasher is the one that was found and commonly referred to as a part of the Talmud. And so I don't currently believe that. Sometimes it's called the Book of the Upright One, which is what's commonly cited as Jasher is translated to. I don't think the Book of Jasher that we have today is the one that's being referenced here, personally, because there's no history before the 2nd century AD, and it seemed to have been a part of rabbinic midrash that was included in the Talmud.
Yeah, it's got a lot of questionable issues.
Yeah.
And Sean and I are firm in our understanding of Jubilees being scripture, and there are some clear differences in things described in Jubilees versus same events described in Jasher. So for me, even regardless of the manuscript issues that you've talked about, the fact that it disagrees with Jubilees is like an immediate no. It's just like if it disagreed with any of the other 66, quote unquote.
Which it does.
Yeah.
Which it does. So again, if it's a 2nd century work of rabbis that was included in the Talmud, but never even considered scripture by the Jews, but yet also the Jews rejected Jubilees in the 1st century.
Yeah.
So then, that makes sense. They're going to try to write about the same topics mentioned in Jubilees
with a different
spin and take out all the prophecy of the plant of righteousness of Christ, take out the concept of the millennial reign, take out, should I tell them my conversation I had with the Jewish rabbi just recently? I'm sorry, guys.
Maybe wait till we get through the chapters first.
Yeah. We can talk about it later. I didn't get it filmed, guys, but there was had an incredible conversation. It's like a bad joke. There's 2 Catholics, a rabbi and Sean walk into a conversation. It's like a bad joke. Anyway, so more battles, more battles. I'm not sure if I have much commentary on all these additional battles here.
I don't.
Other than just he's repeating what God told him. He's repeating to the people, be strong and courageous, from chapter 1. I think that's interesting. Seems like that particular encouragement had a strong impact on Joshua. Be strong and courageous. Do all the Lord tells you. Nothing else in here that I want to speak on. We can go to the next chapter. Okay. So in chapter 11, now when Jabin, the king of Hazor, heard about these things, he sent word to Jobab, the king of Madon, to the kings of Shimron and Akshaph. I don't even know how you say that.
I'd say Akshaph.
To the kings of the north in the mountains, in the Arabah, the south of Chinnereth, in the foothills, and to Nephath Dor to the west, to the Canaanites in the east and the west, to the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, and the Jebusites in the hill country, and to the Hivites at the foot of Mount Hermon in the land of Mitzpah. So these kings came out with all their armies, and multitude as numerous as the sand on the seashore, along with a great number of horses and chariots. All these kings joined forces and encamped at the waters of Merom to fight against Israel. I wonder where the waters of Merom are. Then the Lord said to Joshua, do not be afraid of them, for by this time tomorrow I will deliver all of them slain before Israel. You are to hamstring their horses and burn their chariots. So by the way, the waters of Merom, Joshua and his whole army came upon them suddenly and attacked them. And the Lord delivered them into the hand of Israel, who struck them down and pursued them all the way to greater Sidon and Mithrophoth Maim, and eastward as far as the valley of Mizpah. They struck them down, leaving no survivors. Joshua treated them as the Lord had told him. He hamstrung their horses and burned up their chariots. At that time, Joshua turned back and captured Hazor and put its king to the sword, because Hazor was formerly the head of all these kingdoms. The Israelites put everyone in Hazor to the sword, devoting them to destruction. Nothing that breathed remained, and Joshua burned down Hazor itself. Joshua captured all these kings and their cities and put them to the sword. He devoted them to destruction, as Moses, the Lord's servant, had commanded. Yet Israel did not burn any of the cities built on their mounds, except Hazor, which Joshua burned. The Israelites took for themselves all the plunder and livestock of these cities, but they put all the people to the sword until they had completely destroyed them, not sparing anyone who breathed. As the Lord had commanded his servant Moses, so Moses commanded Joshua. This is what Joshua did, leaving nothing undone of all the Lord had commanded Moses. So Joshua took this entire region, the hill country, all the Negev, all the land of Goshen, the western foothills, the Arabah, the mountains of Israel, and their foothills from Mount Halak, which rises towards Seir, as far as Belgad, in the valley of Lebanon at the foot of Mount Hermon. He captured all their kings and struck them down, putting them to death. Joshua waged war against all these kings for a long period of time. No city made peace with the Israelites except the Hivites living in Gibeon. All others were taken into battle. For it was of the Lord to harden their hearts to engage Israel in battle, so that they would be set apart for destruction and would receive no mercy, being annihilated as the Lord had commanded Moses. At that time, Joshua proceeded to eliminate the Anakim from the hill country of Hebron, Debir, and Anab, and from all the hill country of Judah and of Israel. Joshua devoted them to destruction along with their cities. No Anakim were left in the land of the Israelites. Only in Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod did any survive. So Joshua took the entire land, in keeping with all the Lord had spoken to Moses. And Joshua gave it as an inheritance to Israel according to the allotments to their tribes. Then the land had rest from war.
Whew.
Yeah.
They be busy guys.
Yeah. It said that he warred against them for a long period of time. It doesn't tell us exactly what that is. 1 year, 2 years, like what are we talking here? 5 years. Either way, all of them got whooped.
Yeah.
He opened up a can on all of them. And the Anakim were giants. That's why they're being listed out. We see this greater explanation in Deuteronomy 2 and 3. Also, this is from the lineage where Goliath is from Gath. Mm-hmm. Okay, he and his four brothers. So I think this is why it's singling out this, by the way, that there were giants formerly.
Yeah.
But he eliminated all those as well. So now remember, I just want to remind folks for this, because this whole context of this time period in history with Joshua's conquest here, this is one of the largest complaints from atheists and agnostics, is this particular part of the Bible. And there's a back history here that all these people were aware of. That Shem, off the boat, Japheth, Shem, and Ham were given territorial lands by Noah. They divided up the land. This is in Jubilees chapter 8 and 9. And Canaan one of the sons or grandsons of Ham, he decided he didn't want the land that was given to him in South Africa area, South Atlantic, Southwest Africa area. And so he decided he wanted Shem's land. And so he took it by force. It's called sedition. And it was, and he was warned even by Ham, don't do this. We all made an oath. Don't do this.
Yeah.
In the book of Jubilees goes through all this in great detail,
Which is so interesting because Ham has his very bad moment. And because of the way that people have misinterpreted Ham's bad moment, Ham has kind of gotten this bad rap forever now. And like, oh, he's like this evil guy who like slept with his mother or something.
Yeah. Which Jubilee 7 completely destroys.
Yeah. When we do see, at least in that instance, Ham was doing the right thing. He was advising the right thing to his son. He was saying, no, don't go do that. Don't go take this land. So it's just a moment to recognize, a redeeming moment for our old brother Ham there. He did have he dishonored his father for sure. But he had the right idea about, no, you don't go take someone else's land.
Yes, indeed. 1 second here. I'm just looking for something, but so bringing us back into the concept of why are these people there? Like if we're looking big picture, why are these people there? Why is God saying go back and take these people out? And we're told in the days of Genesis chapter 12 through 15, Abraham is told that the sin of the Amorites is not yet full. But there will be 400 years from now, there will be a time when these people's sin is full. Okay. So what do we see happens to Sodom and Gomorrah when their sin was full? Right. So instead of just shooting fire from heaven, he's given this people group 400 years to repent.
Yeah.
We already know that Midian is in the midst of all these people.
Yeah.
Where did Jethro come from? The
True.
priest to God of Midian. Was he telling people to repent?
I would assume.
In his days? Where I just want to remind people listening in the crowd here, this is the part of the context that matters. The Melchizedek in Genesis 14, that Abraham, whom Abraham is living outside of Hebron, the very cities that we're talking about right now, the territory, the very area that we're talking about, that Joshua is just going into Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's old stomping grounds. Okay, this is where the patriarchs used to be, and in Salem, a city of Salem, next to Bethel, next to Hebron, close by, Abraham went and paid tithes to a Melchizedek, whom had other priests under him. He was the high priest of the Melchizedeks. That means there was other people worshiping Yahweh outside of Abraham in that region, in that land, and those people did not go down into Goshen with the family of Israel.
Right.
In the days of Jacob, when there was famine in the land. So what happened to them? What happened? There's a ton of stories here we don't have.
Yeah.
In Deuteronomy chapter 2 and 3, the sons of Lot, the Ammonites and the Moabites, it talks about how they were fighting giants and rooting them out of the land. And one of them even kept the bed of one of the giants they conquered as a kind of like put it on display, right? So that means they were busy while the Israelites were being oppressed or going down to Goshen, and then later being oppressed there. There was already men whom seemingly in some way or fashion were servants of the Lord, righteous to the Lord, dedicated to the Lord, trying to root out the evils in this land, still in that land. In fact, if you read in the book of Jubilees, it talks about, I think it's in chapter 46, Amram, the father of Moses, lived mostly in this region before he went to Egypt. And then the Canaanite king decided to attack Egypt and close the gates of Egypt and not let anybody leave. And then therefore they birthed Moses in Egypt. Otherwise, Amram would have went back to his home in this region,
the land of his fathers,
same region that Joshua's in. And Moses would have been born there, right? But instead, Moses was born in Egypt because they were locked in once this new Canaanite king made war and took over. There's a huge context here, guys. The Bible takes us with a spotlight, okay? A spotlight on the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But just like with the spotlight, the light does illuminate things on the periphery, right? There's a spotlight, but then there's things on the periphery that get illuminated. Well, the scriptures show us things happening on the periphery, and that is the descendants of Moab and the Ammonites. They're not always good. It seems like they had a time where they turned evil, but they were good for a moment. They battled their own giants. The descendants of the Melchizedeks and that whole priesthood, where did they go? What did they do? How did Jethro become a priest? He would have been part of the Melchizedek priesthood. Job, who's living in this area, he's south of Seir. We just talked about them being in the land of Seir and one of the places they took over. This is right next to the area of Job. So this is Job was a righteous man who worshiped Yahweh, and all of his friends, even though they didn't have the best maturity in how they talked and approached to Job, they're still telling Job, repent to God, right? Which means they, at least in their own poor or possibly not poor understanding, they were also trying to worship God, and these were kings of Arabia. So the point I'm trying to get at, these are descendants of Ishmael. The point I'm trying to get at is that we can't just assume everyone outside of Israel is just always some wicked reprobate. Okay. In the periphery of the spotlight of the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we do see other people that are doing the commandments of God, worshiping God, fighting the battles of God. And I just think that's important to remember at this time. Now, Joshua, with this specific military army of the Israelites that is in the spotlight focus, are being taken into a very, very, viper's nest of a region, right? The heart of evil, if you will, in this particular region, with all these Amorite kings and Perizzites and Hivites and all these different kings that are aligning themselves in confederacy to fight against Israel, because they know that this land has been stolen by sedition that they're living in. They've had time. They've had 400 years to repent, and they've had 40 plus years to leave. God said he was going to send the hornet ahead of them to drive out as many as possible. So that means the people that remain are there with the utmost will to be in defiance of Israel, in defiance of the God of Israel, and to literally exterminate the Hebrew people. These people would be in the philosophic, spiritual allegiance with the Canaanite king who took over Egypt in the days of Moses to try to exterminate and oppress the Jewish people or the Israelite people. So they are 100% against Yahweh.
Yeah.
So the reason I'm going through all this, guys, is hopefully to bring some clarity, some context and clarity to this story. Okay. Also to address some of the comments in the live chat. Why are some of these territories that are being taken over, these kingdoms and these kings being mentioned? It says he destroyed everybody at the sword. Do we assume that they're all just giants? They were engaging in pharmakia. They were engaging in these ways that we're told about, to where they're producing fruit that's really big. We already saw this in the land of Canaan from the spies from Moses 40 years earlier. They're engaging in giants. The Amorites had giants, as we learned about earlier in the days of Moses in Numbers 14. So we don't know the extent of all those giants and what happened in the last 40 years of where they went and what's happening. I personally don't think that, I could be wrong, but I would only imagine they had problems reproducing.
Yeah.
Because of the resources you need to maintain this.
Yeah.
And these are continual nations that are doing the opposite of the commandments of God. That means all the curses of the covenant are going to be happening to them, to which that means they're going to run into times of famine and plague. They're going to be warring with each other, which creates more famine and plague. That's why I think by the time we get here in the days of Joshua, there's just a lingering amount of giants. There's just not, it's not like it's overwhelming force. It's not like all the things included that would need to maintain an actual full-on nation full of giants, the resources that would be needed for that because of how much they would need to eat every day. The land could not sustain it.
Right.
We have a lot of problems. So I think that not everybody's giants, but everyone that's here has had an opportunity to either leave or repent. Now that means that they're then 100% willing to go in and kill Israel. God determined these people are worthy of death in the same ways he took out Korah and his whole family and everyone that aligned with Korah. And that was part of Israel. So I think some of the misconception the antagonists and the atheists and the agnostics have is they look at this and they think, oh, why should there be capital? They already disagree with capital punishment as a general concept. So they would be like, "Well, why is God killing people?" Right? No matter who it is or what the backstory is or what
Yeah.
sins they've transgressed, they don't even care about the details. They're just being like, "Why is God having these people get killed?" You know what I mean? Yet they're not complaining when in chapter 8, the inhabitants of Ai killed 36 Israelites. They're not saying why the Ai people killed the Israelites.
Yeah.
They're not complaining about that. They're only complaining about Yahweh determining death upon the wicked. So this is where I don't know if everyone in here is considered genetically altered or some sort of giant, but this particular fighting force has intended to ally themselves to destroy and kill the anointed of the Lord, and that's a death penalty. So that's where this is what we see happening. This is what we see completely taking place in the days of Joshua, and I think I don't distrust the Father's judgment in this regard. I think that he knew who he's up against, and he's commending Joshua for faithfully carrying out what he wanted Joshua to do. Is there anything on this chapter 11 that you wanted to comment on, sweetie?
Nope. I think you covered.
Yeah.
I think you covered plenty.
Yeah, it's an interesting chapter there. Okay, so we go to chapter 12. These are the kings of the land whom the Israelites struck down, whose lands they took beyond the Jordan to the east, from the Arnon Valley to Mount Hermon, including all the Arabah eastward. Sihon, the king of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon, he ruled from Ar on the rim of the Arnon Valley, along the middle of the valley up to the Jabbok River, which is the border of the Ammonites. That is half of Gilead, as well as the Arabah east of the Sea of Chinnereth to the Sea of the Arabah, the Salt Sea, eastward through Beth Jeshimoth, and southward below the slopes of Pisgah. And Og, king of Bashan, one of the remnant of the Rephaim, who lived in Ashtaroth and Edrei, he ruled over Mount Hermon, Selakah, all of Bashan up to the border of the Geshurites and the Maccathites, and half of Gilead to the border of Sihon, the king of Heshbon. Moses, the servant of the Lord, and the Israelites had struck them down and given their land as an inheritance to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. These are the kings of the land that Joshua and the Israelites conquered beyond the Jordan to the west, from Baal Gad in the valley of Lebanon to Mount Halak, which rises towards Seir. According to the allotments to the tribes of Israel, Joshua gave them an inheritance: the hill country, the foothills, the Arabah, the slopes, the wilderness, and the Negev, the lands of the Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. The king of Jericho was one. The king of Ai, which is near Bethel, was one. The king of Jerusalem, one. The king of Hebron, one. The king of Jarmuth, one. The king of Lachish, one. The king of Eglon, one. The king of Gezer, one. The king of Debir, one. The king of Geder, one. The king of Hormah, one. The king of Arad, one. The king of Libnah, one. The king of Adullam, one. The king of Makkedah, one. The king of Bethel, one. The king of Tapua, one. The king of Hepher, one. The king of Aphek, one. The king of Lasharon, one. The king of Madon, one. The king of Hazer, one. The king of Shimron Meron, one. The king of Akshvash, one. The king of Tanakh, one. The king of Megiddo, one. The king of Kadesh, one. The king of Jokneam and Carmel, one. The king of Dor and Naphtador, one. The king of Goim in Gilgal, one. The king of Tizah, one. So were 31 kings in all. So there it is. That's a huge swath of land.
Not too much to comment on that chapter.
It's kind of a recap chapter.
Yeah.
Even all the way back to Moses. So, yeah,
It's
there's
like a random clip show going on flashbacks for us.
Yeah.
Guys, I realized recently, because I have watched some 90s sitcoms over the last couple years just to like see like what were we watching, back in the day. And I forgot about the clip show flashback where it's like the writers had nothing for the week. And so the show would start and it would seem like a normal storyline. And then all of a sudden it's like flashing back to other episodes of the show. I'm like, man, kids today will just never know how horrible it was to turn on that show for the week. You're all excited for your episode. Oh, it's a clip show.
Clip show.
That chapter was our little clip show.
Okay, guys, as always, go ahead and drop your comments and questions that you'd have. And let us know what you thought. Any questions about these chapters we read? Someone's asking about, James is asking, what is sin? What does it mean that the sin is full? Well, with the application of the rest of the story, it seems to me like it's a phrase referring to their judgment is not ready yet. So once their sin was full, here comes the judgment,
I think of a parent saying, all right, I've had about enough.
And what happens when you've
my
had enough?
tolerance only goes so far, and then it's time for punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Carmel is asking, does verse 22 mean that all these people in the land devoted were giant? No, I think I was just trying to address that earlier. No, it doesn't. All right. Military Vets is asking Zechariah 9:5. Does this verse refer to current events happening with the destruction of Gaza? Well, let's go take a look. I don't have that one memorized. All right. So it says Ashkelon will see fear and Gaza will writhe in agony, as will Ekron, for her hope will wither. There will cease to be a king in Gaza, and Ashkelon will be uninhabited. A mixed race will occupy Ashdod, and I will cut off the pride of the Philistines. This is the days of Zechariah, which is at the end of the 70 years
Against the land of Hadrach and Damascus. It's a resting place. So that gives us the context.
As well as Tyre and Sidon.
At the beginning, yeah.
So I personally don't think so. I think this is the rest of the Empire of Babylon taking on all those other peoples there. They even invaded Egypt at one point. They took on Tyre and Sidon over a long period of time. And I guess if they made their way from Tyre and Sidon, which would be modern day Lebanon, down to Egypt, then they would have run into Ashdod and Gaza and those places like that.
So this is like an old prophecy for destruction back then.
And, that place is inhabited today. So this is, it says Ashkelon be uninhabited. Now, I don't think there's a city of Ashkelon today. I could be wrong. But this says it's uninhabited. So there was a time period when, like we talked about in previous times, when the Babylonian Empire during the days of Nebuchadnezzar and the Nebuchadnezzar 1 and 2 and the people that followed him, when they invaded these places, they had a kind of like a history of, if they didn't burn their land, they threw salt on all the farms so that people couldn't plant and live there. So that's how they would keep the land from like being reoccupied immediately, because they didn't want to station outposts everywhere.
Right.
And like the U.S. military does.
Yes. They didn't have the money for that back then.
So they were just like, man, let's just keep people from re-inhabiting here. Let's throw salt on all the land so they can't grow food.
Yeah.
So that would be, we don't think that's referring to anything today, personally.
I can't speak for Sean. I'm pretty sure he probably agrees with me, but we don't condone what's being done to the people of Gaza.
No, in the same way, I don't condone what happened in Rwanda. I don't condone what's happening in Russia, Ukraine. I'm not taking a side. I don't think any of them are justified or correct. I don't condone what the Chinese are doing to the Muslims in China. I don't condone any of that stuff. Right? Pick a country where someone's oppressing, invading, or fighting unjustly with another one. I don't condone any of that stuff. In the same way, we don't feel like modern day Israel is a fulfillment of prophecy because it's not prophesied.
Yeah.
It's a political construct. So they're just going to do what they're going to do in the same way they did in 50, 60 years ago. And they came in and established themselves militarily. I'll be honest with you. I'm surprised that they've waited this long. They're not following prophecy. They're not within prophecy. They're just doing things in that land in the same way the Jebusites were doing things in Jerusalem before Moses and Joshua were around. They're just doing stuff, and it's not prophecy. It's not fulfillment. I don't agree with anyone starving out other people's, cutting off their trade lines. Now, I don't agree with the Gaza people not standing up to the quote unquote Hezbollah, who, no matter who they are, if you believe that they're just a Mossad agent or if they're actually Hezbollah themselves, it doesn't matter. The people of Gaza themselves could stand up against those terroristic activities and try to create peace with Israel on their own.
We assume that they could.
The point is, well, fight or die. You stand up to them to your last breath. It's unless you've got an entire nation that's being held hostage.
You might not be up to date on what's been going on there, but I mean, they're being forced into a famine right now and starving. Like, there's actual ethnic cleansing going on. So
no, I said I don't agree with what Israel's done. Okay, don't make me repeat myself. Don't make me repeat myself. Baby.
I just wouldn't say that all the lay people in Gaza. I wouldn't say that they have the ability to just rise up and overcome Hezbollah.
So what I'm saying is the people of what are considered the Palestinian people, and all the different territories that they inhabit, if they did not align themselves, if they did not agree, they could find a way to communicate to Israel. We do not agree with these people that have been voted into power. We do not agree with them taking our pipes for hospitals and schools and turning them into weapons. We do not agree with these people. Help us liberate us.
I think, well, that's
so therefore, but when you talk to them, they have a similar ideology of they want Israel to be destroyed. So
there's more history there than just what's happening now. Like Israel kind of came on the scene and kind of forced their way in to begin with.
I'm talking about specifically though, if you disagree, if you're being oppressed and you disagreed, we live in Wyoming. Okay. So if we were taken over by a terrorist force that hated Nebraska and we didn't agree with them, we would communicate with Nebraska, just like Rahab did with the Israelites living in Jericho. You would communicate, say, hey, we don't agree with what's going on here. We need to be distinguished as a people group. We need to be liberated from these peoples. So all I'm saying is, and if those people are held captive in a way that they can't even communicate that in this modern day, with all forms of, they have phones, pagers, internet, they have all kinds of things. If those people cannot even get out at any point, at any time, collectively as a people to say, we do not agree with this specific group of people that are ruling over us, and we need help to overcome them because we would like to create peaceful trade relations with the Israelites next door. I get it. The Israelites next door are up to some nefarious stuff.
The Israelites next door, they're by sedition.
I get it. That's not the point. That's not the point. The point is they're not reaching out to Egypt. They're not reaching out to Jordan. They're not reaching out to Lebanon.
Actually, yeah. Well, this is a whole whole conversation we should have off camera because there are a lot of people in Gaza that reach out to other countries and try to get help, but they don't.
Yes, and I've heard that too, that Egypt will not take them. They don't want to take them. They don't want to help them because they don't want to get involved with the war with Israel.
America won't help them.
Yes, I know that, sweetie. So. I know. There's a lot of injustice happening in the world. Yeah. That's right. Just like America didn't go into Rwanda when there was a genocide in Rwanda. Like there's a lot of problems around the world that's not being dealt with the way we would like. I get it. No one's taking political sides. All I'm just saying is it's not a fulfillment of prophecy. It's just nations, corrupt nations, not worshiping the God of Israel, who are warring with themselves, just like we've seen throughout history. That's all it is. I'm surprised, since Israel realized in the 60s and 70s that they had the backing of the United States, that they hadn't already tried to just take over their Zionist plan a long time ago. Like, why are they waiting so long? Right? That's what I'm confused about.
Because there has been international pressure for many decades. They have been on the genocide watch for decades. They have been being accused of ethnic cleansing by other countries in the UN for decades. But because there is such staunch support for them from America's side, there's all this pressure on other countries not to intervene. So there's a whole lot more to it than just, there's some terrorists over here and here's the good guys and here's the bad guys. Like
apparently it's a conversation we should not have right now. I don't think that what I'm trying to say is truly going across well right now. So Nathan is asking us, hey guys, a lot of messianics make a distinction between the chosen people and then the grafted in. Why is this? Thanks. Because they have come into the idea of messianic. If they're messianic in the sense that they're raised Jewish, and that's why they call themselves Messianic Jews, if you, I don't, I mean, Nathan, I'm trying to distinguish, are you using the terminology messianic as a Torah observant believer, or are you using it in the sense that they have raised Jewish and they believe in Christ? If it's the latter, if they're raised Jewish and believe in Christ, it's because they were raised in Judaism, and Judaism teaches a distinction. It's actually what I just heard with the rabbi at that conversation at the rabbi. So I walk up on this conversation with this rabbi talking to these two Catholic guys at the local university. And it was hilarious because the rabbi actually had a table out there, kind of like a change your mind. And it said, "Stump the Jew," which I thought was like way too easy to make fun of him. I wanted to kind of be like, need a better sign, bro. But I walk up to this table, and this is, he's got his curly cues, he has his hat on, he's got his long ZZ. I mean, he looks the caricature 100%. He's got his unkempt, partial beard, that kind of stuff. And these two clean-cut Catholic guys are standing there talking to him. And the moment I walk up, they're talking about, like, does the Jewish people consider any other people being able to be saved?
Right.
And the rabbi says, "Oh yeah, you can go to the Jewish heaven if you are, abiding by the Noahidic laws." And so this is what Rabbinic Judaism has made this distinguishment for 2,000 plus years, where they teach this idea that, oh, you can, if you're not of the blood-born descendancy of Abraham, then you can still make it to the quote unquote Jewish heaven. I thought that was hilarious that he actually said that. You can make it to the Jewish heaven as long as you abide by these Noahidic laws, by which he then tried to cite the Noahidic laws and couldn't do it. He couldn't remember them. And so the Catholic board is like, so you're saying, like, even though we don't, basically he's distinguishing between bloodborne versus grafted in. The bloodborne is what they would call their chosen people. Okay. So that's the distinguishment Rabbinic Judaism makes, but not scripture.
Yeah, and actually it's scary, you guys, to find out just how many people in the Torah community have some form of this belief, some form of their own Torah dispensationalism. I ran into that 2 weeks ago when I had the audacity to call out hypocrisy in the Torah crowd with people who won't circumcise their sons. And all of a sudden there's, this whole crowd of people that are like, "Oh no, those are Gentiles. They're Gentiles. They don't need to be circumcised." I'm like, "Wait a minute. Aren't you guys Torah observant?" "Yeah, but not that one, because hello, like, only the bloodborne are supposed to do that." I'm like, "What?" It's just wild how that question of, did God really say? Did God really mean everyone? Surely he couldn't mean everyone. There's a guy I follow on Facebook who has some really great studies that he posts. And he posted one recently where he was saying basically that there's a Torah for bloodborne Israel, and that includes certain things like, conveniently, circumcision and seats and feasts. But there's a Torah for the foreigner in our midst, and they don't have to do these things in this Torah for these people over here. And I'm like,
they just get to stand from afar and watch the people go celebrate the Sabbaths and festivals of God with joy at the house of God, but yet they should just stand afar and watch. And no, it's
I'm like, so you're actually saying there's a Torah for one group of people and a Torah for another group of people? He never answered me. I'm not sure if it's just because he got busy with all the other conversations he was having, because some of his posts get pretty good traction. So, but yeah, I was like, I knew he was like messianic type, where he leaned into a lot of the Judaism type stuff. But here he was outright saying there's one Torah for the native and one Torah for the foreigner. I'm like, the Torah literally says the opposite of that. It literally says one Torah for the native and the foreigner.
You mean like Christians when they say, "Oh, Jesus didn't abolish the law, but he abolished it when he fulfilled it"? You mean when they say the exact opposite of what the words say? Yeah, this is why we have to be loving, patient, and diligent to teach what's actually being said. Logical. I appreciate your question. He says Hebrews 4 says those in the wilderness had the same gospel we have, but it didn't profit them, not being mixed with faith. Why were they unable? But we are. Weren't some faithful? Well, yes, of course. Yeah, in the wilderness, even in the context of what's being referenced in history, those in the wilderness, there were some faithful, yes. but those who were without faith, that means that they were without the willingness to practice the faith. Okay. So if I pull up Hebrews chapter 4 here, it's talking about the disobedience. And just as in our day, there's those who are without the willingness to practice the faith, even though they've heard the same message, the same gospel. So go verse 4, chapter 4, verse 1 starts with, therefore, while the promise of entering his rest still stands, let us be careful that none of you be deemed to have fallen short of it. For we did not receive the good news for we also received the good news just as they did, but the message they heard was of no value to them, since they did not share the faith of those who comprehended it. We see this today, brother. We see this today. There's non-believers who do not comprehend or understand it or share in the practice of the good news of the gospel of the Father sending his Son so that we could have resurrection and the kingdom come, and there be peace on the earth. So that whole big storyline, they not only don't comprehend it, but they don't put forward even the good faith effort to comprehend it or even to try to adopt its implications. So they don't have, quote unquote, the faith for the message. So it's the same. There's a percentage of people that will hear it, understand it, apply it in their life with goodwill and intent and their discipleship. And then there's those who won't, they'll reject it. And there are those who are in the middle, as we see in Matthew 13 and the parable of the sower, right? There's some who do hear the word of the kingdom. They get choked up by the weeds. They fall on the wayside and fear and inability, and others that the cares of this life choke them out, and the Satan steals the seed for their heart. So yeah, it's a mixed bag, the same as it was in history. It's the same mixed bag of responses in mankind today. Is there anything you want to say about this one?
No. I mean, really the issue is being faithful.
Yeah.
We see how many came through that 40 years and never bothered to circumcise,
Yeah.
I mean, faithfulness is following through on the Lord's commandments. So you're always going to have people that aren't faithful to him in that aspect. And there's going to be people who struggle with being faithful to him, but maybe are still true believers, but there are going to be people who seem to be whitewashed tombs.
All right. Christ died for the ungodly is asking, Christ was the rock that followed them. Yeshua was in the wilderness with them. Yeshua was, so we got a lot of context here I'll do this very quickly. Okay. The angel of the Lord that followed them, that led them, actually didn't follow them, that led them and spoke to them, was an angel of the Lord. Okay. That's told to us in multiple accounts, Joshua 2, Exodus 3, whole bunch of different places. Okay. The appearance of the Messiah is in the last days, these last days. Okay. So this is what Hebrews 1 tells us. Hebrews 1 verse 2. But in these last days, he's spoken to us through his Son. The angel of the Lord that accompanied them in the wilderness spoke to them on a regular basis. So we have a massive logical and textual contradiction if that angel was Jesus in the Old Testament. Because Jesus is the same yesterday and today and forever.
Mm-hmm.
He was still the Son, even before he became born of the womb of Mary. He was still God's Son, right?
Mm-hmm.
This verse directly tells you he was not in the Old Testament talking to people. He only showed up through the womb of Mary for the first time on earth. He wasn't making all these ancient theophanies or Christophanies everywhere in the Old Testament. So that's the first and foremost is what I would say that. But secondly, 1 Corinthians 11 is not even, or 1 Corinthians 10 is not even truly teaching that concept. This is a Trinitarian argument. Okay, brother? This is made up man-made argument trying to force Jesus into the Old Testament.
This is one of the boxes that is brought to the book, and all the words are pulled out and shoved into that box.
Yeah. So it says in verse 1, I don't want you to be unaware, brothers, that our forefathers were all under the cloud. That was the angel that accompanied them. Cloud by day, fire by night. And that they all passed through the sea. Okay, that's in Exodus 14. They were all baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea. So by Moses showing up as their Messiah, as their deliverer, as their leader, they have to be baptized into him because they're under his tutelage. Just like some people were baptized into John before Jesus showed up. But then you can get baptized into Jesus and be under his tutelage, right? So in the same way, the cloud, which accompanied them for 40 years minimum, it was actually there for a lot longer, in my opinion, and in the sea was a one-time event. So he's just referencing things. He's just referencing things in this time period. Exodus 14, Moses is there leading them through the sea, and the cloud is guarding the Egyptians from attacking them from the rear. He's just referencing these three concepts within this moment in time to say that this was them being baptized. They were then trusting Moses into his tutelage as their leader. Okay. They all ate the same spiritual food and drink. Okay. Yes, that's the words of the Lord. They've been given through Moses for their discipleship and sanctification. For they drank from the same spiritual rock that accompanied them, and that rock was Christ. Okay. So this is where people say, look, well, that's saying that the rock that accompanied them. Well, for one, the rock is not a cloud.
Yeah, there was no physical rock that accompanied them through the wilderness like there was a cloud and a pillar of fire.
Right. So in the same way that Hebrews, now this is actually works well with the previous question. In the same way that Hebrews 4 says they had the same gospel, they had the same good news as we do. They had the same understanding of the kingdom to come. Moses in Exodus 15, right after the sea, them passing through the sea, on the shores the next morning, Moses is singing about the gospel of the kingdom. So he had the same message that Christ preached. He had the same law that Christ obeyed and preached. That is the same spiritual food and drink. The same rock, the rock of our salvation, they preached and knew about it. They had the writings of Enoch, which teaches about Christ, who becomes the elect one who brings salvation to the earth and resurrection to the faithful covenant. They had the same story. They had the same good news. They had the same message. They had the writings of Enoch with them according to the book of Jubilees. Like they're going through the sea. Someone was carrying a list of books, and one of them was Jubilees. This is what we're told in Jubilees chapter 44. So this is to understand the context of what Paul's talking about. He's taken a couple of ideas to quickly use them as a metaphor, as a reference point to, hey, just as the writer of Hebrews has already told you, they had the same gospel. In the same way, they had the same spiritual food and drink, do the commandments of the covenant of the Lord. They had a like we have a prophet like unto Moses. They had Moses, same message, same type of prophet style, same anointed of the Lord to deliver us, except for Christ has the power to resurrect us, which is greater. He's greater than Moses. And in the same way, we have the same spiritual food and drink. Christ was the rock, because Christ was a part of the message that was already in their understanding, the same spiritual food and drink, which was the gospel of the kingdom that Moses preached. So this whole concept is Paul is actually trying to push together an understanding that we're all the same believers of the same message. They were baptized into Moses, we're baptized into Christ. It's just because he's our leader now, Moses is dead and in the grave. So we're having the same message, John 7:16, the message and doctrine of the Father. That's what Jesus preached. It's the same one that Moses preached. So hopefully that helps you a little bit, brother. It's not literally saying that Christ was some sort of physical rock that accompanied them. There was no physical rock that accompanied them. Okay. There was a physical cloud that accompanied them. So this is where we have to go back to the actual stories being referenced so we can discern what's being made metaphor in this passage and what's being spoken of that was a literal aspect or character in the passage being referenced. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, to me it does, but I also already have that understanding.
Yeah. We're also not battling through a Trinitarian indoctrination.
Yeah.
All right. Generation AR is asking, Sean, where's the throne where the Father and the Son execute judgment? It's in the New Jerusalem, right? Or how? Where does Satan accuse us with the Father? Well, I guess I'd have to say, like, it's the throne is in heaven, Revelation chapter 5. That's where the Father's throne is. That's where the Son sits at his right hand. It's in the Father's house in heaven, Hebrews 8:1-2. But when the kingdom comes to the earth, it's inside the New Jerusalem that sits down on the earth. That's where the throne of Yeshua is set up to judge all nations. So, but we do see, as far as a different timeline, we see Satan can appear before the Father in heaven, to accuse the brethren, as we see that in Job chapter 1 and 2. He can't live there. He can't abide there. He's lost his first habitation, as Jude 1:6 tells us. But apparently, according to Job, he or according to the book of Job, he can go back to accuse us before the Father temporarily. So is there anything you want to add to this particular question?
No, I don't think so. Just, be careful not to give him reason to go accuse you. Like, he had valid reason to accuse Moses. We talked about that last week. Like, you can give valid reason for Satan to go say to God, hey, look at this one down here.
Yeah.
He says he's following you, and look what he's doing.
Yeah, that's what we in modern day. That's what we say. Don't feed the trolls.
Yeah,
that's right. Satan wants to troll us before the Father.
He's the OG troll.
Don't give him valid reason to troll us before the Father.
Fed, yeah.
King G, why are so many Torah observant gets this wrong about Yeshua being the angel of the Lord as well as because, bro, so many people come out from Trinitarian churches that teach second century Christology, which is a Trinitarian concept that they have imported into the Trinitarian language to make sense of how the angel Lord is everywhere in the Old Testament. They then mold it into a PSA framework to say that, oh, this angel Lord was Yahweh speaking to them in the Old Testament, and therefore he had to die for them because of penal substitutionary atonement theory. So they take one man-made theory and they add another man-made theory to it, and that's how they try to find a cohesive storyline, which causes them to go into the Bible and start rewriting what's clearly said in the Bible with different names of characters. And unfortunately, a lot of people in the Torah crowd that have come out of mainstream churches, they carry this baggage with them into their new understanding of the fullness of the commandments. So it's like, this is why we're all still a work in progress.
I would.
Do you want to address it?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, sweetie.
Hey, singing Linny. This is actually something that I have been working through for quite a few years because I realized that I really was struggling with a spirit of fear. And I want to, after I answer this, I want to drop a link in the comments for you to go read one of my kind of testimonies about this, because I really believe that the Father has been showing me that this has a lot to do with the Bible refers to it as the inner being. We talk about it today as the inner child. And he has really been walking me through many layers of healing, specifically concerning my inner child and my past and trauma from my past and things that I didn't realize I still need to heal from on an individual layered level, because for me at least, I can't speak for you, but I think this might be similar for a lot of people on this earth. For me, he was showing me that pit of fear that was just always hovering in the back of my mind that I could never quite get rid of came directly from a childhood that was void of him. I didn't believe in him. I didn't have much of his presence around in the form of true believers around me. And it's very scary. This world is very scary, especially when you don't have God. And so it wasn't so much my adult self dealing with that spirit of fear, is the inner child in me that has carried that void that was without God in my life, like a bottomless pit. And when he started showing me that kind of imagery and walking me through praying over my inner child, and when it's basically like a form of EMDR, we call it EMDR these days, but I really feel like God was showing, because I was thinking I needed to go to a therapist and do some different kind of therapy. And he started showing me, let me be your therapist. Let me walk you through this. And as memories come up throughout my day of traumatic things or sad things or lonely things or scary things that I experienced as a child and even through my teens and my 20s, he has been showing me to hold, instead of shoving those memories down like I have programmed myself to do out of the PTSD, he has shown me to hold that memory, visualize it, and pray over it and pray over myself in that time of my life and ask for his healing there, whatever I feel led to pray at the time. Pray for the other people, pray that I need to forgive the people in that memory. I haven't forgiven them. So he's been walking me through that for a matter of months, and I really feel like I have overcome that spirit of fear that I've lived with for my whole life, basically. So that's just me. That's just my experience. But when I shared about that a few months ago, it seemed to really speak to a lot of other people who kind of couldn't put words to their own issue with that spirit of fear. And it seems that that has been a message that has helped edify other people and help them overcome the same issue. So I'm going to drop a Substack. I posted it to Substack. It's also on my Facebook, and I don't know if you're on Facebook, but I'm going to post a Substack article where I shared about this, this kind of imagery of a pit of fear that I just kind of lived with since childhood. And just to I haven't really, I guess I haven't quite updated people since that post, but working through this concept of praying over all these versions of my past self has really helped me overcome that fear. So I'm going to go find that post and drop it in the
Thank
comments.
you, sweetie. It's great. Kevin is asking, why did Yeshua refer to the Phoenician woman as dog? There's two possible applications here. The Phoenicians worshipped the Ceres, the god of the star, of the Ceres star, which is where it was commonly called the dog star. And so that's one application, that culturally they could have been referred to as dogs because of the god they worship being the god of the dog star. Another application, since she was a woman, is that it was a cultural concept back then to refer to temple prostitutes as dogs. And the idea was that the dog lays at the feet of the master ready for service. So they had male and female prostitutes in the ancient pagan temples to false gods at the foot of the idol waiting for service. So this is my understanding why we see, like in Revelation 22, I think it's verse 15, where it talks about the dogs not being allowed in the kingdom. Now, it's not talking about your golden retriever. It's not talking about your Dobermans. It's talking about, I think it's in the context of all the sorcerers, sexually immoral, murderers, idolaters. Pretty sure it's talking about the temple prostitutes because it was a cultural idiom for that concept. God made the little dogs that we have, our two little dogs on the couch. Even though they're not for food, he made them just like all these other animals. God made them and said they were good. It's not talking about animals in this passage. It's talking about behaviors. So it was a cultural concept back then that the behaviors of the temple prostitutes referred to as dogs. So it could have been a double entendre. He could have been talking about, since she's a Phoenician woman from a land of people that worship a dog star, it's that they're violating Deuteronomy 44:19, that they're worshiping the hosts of heaven, which is what they attributed their gods to a star and worshipped. As well as she could have been a temple prostitute. Regardless, though, he gave to her, because of her great faith, he gave her the healing of her daughter. It's an amazing story. Another incredible, he gave covenant blessing to a woman not born of Jacob. And it tells you she's a Canaanite. I think in the Luke chapter, I want to say it's in the Luke 8 accounts versus the Mark 8 account, because it's in like Matthew, Mark, and Luke, all three accounts. She's called a Canaanite and a Syrophoenician. So she's not a descendant of Jacob in any regard. So she is given the blessings of the covenant because of her faith. She is immediately recognized as grafted in and worthy of the blessings of the covenant of the God of Israel, even though she's not born literally of Israel. So he is doing a wonderful thing for this woman, and he's flying in the face of the teachings of the Pharisees. It's amazing. Yeah, logical. That's why the Sirius radio has a dog logo. It's from the star, Sirius star. No name, no face. Appreciate the super chat. He says, I saw a video claiming Jubilees isn't scripture because Jubilees 9 says Rebecca was 10 when Isaac was 40, but I don't see this in the R.H. Charles text. No, I don't see that either. I don't see that either.
I swear, some of these people just straight
No.
make up ages in the word.
Yeah.
Just to make a point about something.
And I think I know the video that you saw that makes that bad claim, and I think I addressed it. So if you want to go look into my previous live stream, go to my live stream tab on YouTube and go type in, I think it's the series is called Answering Jubilees. I have like 4 different videos under that live tab. You can either use the search bar inside my YouTube channel or just try to use the general search bar on YouTube. Or you can just scroll down to last year under my live tab through all those videos. And I have 4 different videos addressing a whole bunch of bad out of context claims against Jubilees. So I have like 12 hours on that topic of all the people making these really ridiculous claims out of context on Jubilees, when many times it just needed like read it like 2 verses later and they wouldn't come to that bad conclusion. It's like, it's frustrating, man. And what's more frustrating is not just them taking it out of context, it's the conclusions they make about people that want to talk about the book of Jubilees while they're the ones taking it out of context and not doing the due diligence. It's like, bro, it's very frustrating.
Lenny, I dropped that post into the chat for you. If you are on Facebook, message me and let me know. I have a couple of other posts that I've made along this same lines of kind of this healing journey that the Lord has been taking me through, and I just haven't gotten them onto my Substack yet. But if you'd like to read those as well, let me know.
Yeah, the benefit of healing the Syrophoenician's daughter immediately because of her faith. That's what Christ tells her. I've not seen such faith in Israel. Your daughter is healed at this very hour. Giving her the benefits of the covenant immediately without going through halakha ritual inducting into quote unquote Israel, like just immediately bringing her in and assuming her benefit of Israel.
Yeah, just another insult to those Pharisees.
Yeah. Just like with Rahab, right? Like she didn't go through any kind of Pharisaical rituals to be, brought into Israel over because they had to, have all the men in her house circumcised and learn these exact things. Like, no, just flee the city, flee the city when we come to attack it, or no, put the ribbon over your window or whatever, and then we'll save you when we come in to attack it. And just like that's simple, man. You get grafted in because of your faith. Okay, so Incarnate's saying it's in the Hallelujah Scriptures Apocrypha set. Well, I don't see that in the R.H. Charles, brother. I don't know where the Hallelujah Scriptures are translating Jubilees. I know that R.H. Charles was a literal Greek scholar, and that's what Jubilees was preserved throughout time in, was in Greek. And so I'm not sure who put together the Hallelujah Scriptures. I'm not sure where they come from as far as what scholars put together that Bible or whatnot. So,
yeah, look, the ancient world had a pretty good understanding of when sexual maturity happened for a woman, and that was when she started to menstruate. And I just don't believe there's any way that people back at that time, we're talking about girls younger and younger starting menstruating because it's odd, because it's not normal for younger and younger girls to be menstruating. So just on logic alone, I just don't believe that they were married. I don't believe that truly righteous men were marrying 10-year-olds. I don't believe God was bringing those couples together at that age for a child. I just don't.
Someone put in the live chat they think it's in Joshua 24.
Oh, Jasher.
I don't remember reading that either. In Jasher even.
Yeah, Lisa mentions Rebecca was drawing water for camels. She was not a small child. Yeah.
I'm going through
And
Joshua 24 real quick. I don't
and
see that.
she was asked to consent. I mean, the servant who was sent on his way even asked beforehand, what if she doesn't consent? And Isaac's like, then, or
Yeah.
Abraham's like, then come home, and so yeah, it's just.
It just says in Joshua 24, it doesn't, when it's talking about Eliezer getting Rebekah for Isaac, it says Isaac was 40 when he took Rebekah, the daughter of his uncle Bethuel, for a wife. It doesn't say Rebekah's age in the book of Joshua chapter 24 either. So I'm not sure where they're getting this stuff. But I do know in the Talmud, there's a highly controversial place where a rabbi tries to make a age of consent 9 years old.
Yeah, logical idiot. If men can't go to war until 20, I have just a feeling women weren't ready for marriage until then too. I agree with you. Like I always say, where scripture is silent on something controversial like this, I'm always going to err on the side of logic and God being logical and merciful and not encouraging any kind of child abuse. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Christ died for the ungodly. I'm sorry that you're facing persecution over that, brother. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't. But the theological intimidation of many Trinitarian teachers and churches is some of the worst fruit of the spirit that we see in modernity. All right, Nathan's asking, how's a good way to memorialize trumpets? Well, I would suggest put it on the brightest ZZ that you have, run around all town with a trumpet, blasting your trumpet, go to the city council meeting, blast the trumpet, go to every doorstep of every church in your town and blast the trumpet in their face, tell them that they're apostate pagans who aren't keeping God's law. No, I'm just joking. Don't do any of that stuff. We just keep a meal. We it's a Sabbath for one, so you take the day off, don't work. That's an easy one that you can keep to memorialize it. Remember that it's a Sabbath. If you want to blow a trumpet, you can, but to me, I seem to think that was a part of the priestly duty for this particular day. But either way, there's many Torah crowds have adopted their own traditions and modernity. But I think the number one commonality that most of them still can all agree to is that they refer to the day as a Sabbath, and they maintain a 24-hour Sabbath. And we also just have a memorial meal that we keep as we keep the Sabbath.
Yeah, we treat it as a Sabbath. We don't work. We buy lamb ahead of time. We usually have lamb chops. That's our feast meat. Our little tiny T-bone steaks, and we make a special meal. Maybe someday in the future we might, purchase a shofar or a trumpet. I don't know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It says that Joshua 24:40. She was 10 years old in those days.
If it's written by rabbinic Jews.
Just another, that's why I mentioned what I just said. Just thank you. Who said that? Thank you. Yoshiyahu. Thank you for clearing that for the exact citation, 24:40. Yeah, it does say that. And look, we found so many issues with the book of Joshua way before I got to chapter 20 or 24. So
Yeah, I don't even think you guys had to go through the entire book, right?
no,
Like you didn't even need to go through it line by line, like you
no,
are.
I got through like
show
the first
people.
like 12 chapters, and I was like, bro, there's so
Yeah.
many theological problems with this.
Yeah.
That doesn't line up with the canon of 66, much less Jubilees or Enoch. Like there's problems. There's lots of problems here. So look, when I was younger, back in 2014, 2015, I used to think Joshua was legit.
Yeah.
And then the more I started studying Enoch and Jubilees, the more I started studying the canon itself, and I started to realize we got some serious problems here. So we do not affirm Jasher, the book of Jasher, as scripture at all. Incarnate said, put on a Bill Schnublin video. He blows a shofar with every episode.
I'm more a fan of his older vids, his Prophecy Club vids, the old school Bill.
Well, he's up.
All right, I'm gonna go grab him.
You bring him up here?
Yeah, I'll bring him up here for a few.
I think that'll be good with the babies.
I'm just gonna bring him with me to come down.
Okay.
I'll leave him down there.
Okay, thank you. All right, guys, we'll take a few more questions. Our son's awake, so we're going to try to do our best to take a few more questions here. The judge, there is no story like that. It's not. It was the descendants of Japheth, Ham, and possibly even Shem. Yeah, it was even the descendants of Shem, because Canaan, in Jubilees chapter 8, he married the daughter of Nimrod. So, yeah, there's all of them. Didn't matter which line of Noah's children. Like all three of Noah's great grandchildren from any line, Ham, Japheth, or Shem, like they all sinned. Like they weren't all perfect. There was the more notable and respectable ones that are being mentioned in the scripture are from the line of Shem, but even others within the line of Shem still sinned and weren't perfect. So your bloodline has nothing to do with your behavior. Your integrity has everything to do with your behavior. Your personal decision, whom you were born from, doesn't determine your future. It's what you do with your decisions and how you choose to serve God or not serve God. Yeah, we would strongly disagree with the giants surviving the flood. Yeah, strongly disagree. All right, let me check out this real quick. Okay. Miss Sharon is asking, can you give a brief explanation of what we're memorializing during the Feast of Trumpets? Thanks. So the Feast of Trumpets doesn't give us a lot of explanation. This is why I said I assume it's of the priestly line, I should say, like the priestly duties, right? So basically, it says in the Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and say, on the first day of the 7th month, you are to have a day of rest, a sacred assembly announced by trumpet blasts. You must not do any regular work. You're to present a food offering to the Lord." So the trumpets, I would believe, would be blown by the priests. So here we are, correlating passage for the Feast of Trumpets, Numbers 29. The first day of the 7th month, you hold a sacred assembly. You must not do any regular work. It will be a day for you to sound the trumpets. And as a pleasing aroma to your, you present a burnt offering. And then this goes into the actual instructions for the priest to present the offerings and how they're supposed to present them to the Father. So that's why the people could have collected themselves if they chose, but it doesn't seem to be one of the three required appointed times where the males are supposed to present themselves to Israel. That's Passover, Shavuot, and Tabernacles. So, okay, looks like we have a guest today.
Yes, on my head covering.
This little Levi.
You can say hi.
Say hey, buddy. Say hi to the people.
Say hello. Say Shabbat Shalom.
That's right.
That's the microphone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah, microphone. That's right. Microphone. Got this crazy bedhead going on. Yeah, are you on TV?
You're on TV. You want to sit on Daddy's lap? You want to sit with Daddy?
Want to sit with Daddy?
Okay.
Wow.
Say hi. So you see yourself on TV?
Look. Is that Levi?
It's Levi.
It's Levi.
Say Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah, you see the lights?
Yes.
Lights. Say Shabbat Shalom.
Why?
Why? I don't see a Y anywhere.
Yeah, he's got some fun hair.
Guess it's been a little while since he's come and said hi. So I thought everybody might like to see him.
Daddy's microphone.
Green.
Yep, green button.
Green.
That's right.
Green button.
Green button.
Green button.
Blue button.
Blue button. There's a whole bunch of buttons over there, huh?
Purple button.
Yeah.
Purple button.
Purple button. Yep, he's talking up a storm. He's got quite the vocabulary.
Yeah, he says so much. And in the morning, he just started this the past few days. He comes out of his room. Good morning.
Yeah. And if I'm reading my Bible at the table, he's like so excited. Read the Bible.
Read the Bible.
That's right. Read the Bible. Does Mommy read the Bible in the morning? When we say good morning?
Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Oh, thanks for that prayer, Kev.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Guys, we want to honor a lot of the other Torah teachers out there, and even mainstream pastors. Within what they understand, I think there's a lot of genuine, good-hearted people doing their best. I think that we try to be as thorough as possible, sometimes even to my wife's own annoyance. Like, we try to be as thorough as possible with how we address the scriptures. Maybe it's just my personality trait, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of good-hearted people out there that are, with what they know and what they understand, they're doing their best for sure. And so we want to give them honor as well. They're serving God just as much. We're grateful that you're noticing that we're trying to be thorough. I guess that's what I want to say is we're grateful that for those of you who think that we are one of few actually teaching sound art, we just think that we're trying to be as thorough as possible with what we're teaching. As scripturally based as possible, as thorough as possible, historically possible. So we're trying. We're not perfect. We may be wrong on a few things, but we're trying to do our best. We feel confident in what we do know and talk about, and have talked about repetitively for almost 8 years now. So
I think that's a good segue into, I think, something I wanted to end on. Did you have any more? Were there more questions on here?
I'm just looking for more questions. You're welcome to say your concluding thoughts.
I just want to encourage everyone out there to practice restraint and bridling the tongue, because recent events in this world, anytime there's events like this, we believers, especially we believers who have been down the rabbit hole, kind of use events like Brother Charlie's assassination as license to start speculating and making declarations of things as if they're true that we actually cannot prove according to biblical standards. And I want to encourage people to look at some of the more mature believers in this walk show some of the most restraint when it comes to declaring things to be true or false, declaring things to be hoaxes and fake, declaring whole human beings to be, false shills, apostates, secret Catholic New Agers. And it just breaks my heart because all we're doing is heaping the wrath of God on our heads when we do that. And I am very fearful. I'm not fearful for people who are sitting in church pews who don't have a good understanding of the Sabbath. I'm fearful for people who walk around saying they understand the Sabbath and that they keep the law of God, and yet they are not worried about proving something according to the law of God, which did require 2 or 3 witnesses. So
specifically when you're accusing somebody of
yeah, so I am terrified for the amount of Christians that I am watching fall into Satan's snare to walk in false accusation and not have any fear that they could be wrong and not have any true proof of what they're saying. God, and I just want to remind people, God said that we would be known by our fruit. Not that we would be known by random hand random hand positions that someone screenshots and says, oh, this is a sign. We're not to be known by how we vote. We're not known by what podcasts we listen to. We're not known by the colors that we choose to wear. We are known by our fruit. And so while I am fully on board with a lot of those things being meaningful in the lives of actual occultists who practice magic and use symbolism as a language, that's a real thing. But for people who have very clear fruit, when you're just digging to find symbols and colors and signals with a baseball cap, and when you are digging in order to ignore a person's fruit, I just want to encourage you to pause and reflect before you continue. Yes, thank you, buddy.
Pause.
Before you continue posting things as if you're completely sure that this is a true statement. If you don't have 2 to 3 witnesses, you would not be going up to the judges in Israel and saying, my gut feeling is this guy is a false believer. My gut feeling is, or my discernment or a Holy Spirit told me this guy is a deceiver. So let's execute him. I just want to remind people how serious it is to falsely accuse people.
Yeah, because those judges would have then interviewed that guy. And once they found out that there is no some substance to your claim, they then kill you.
Yeah.
So then you get the punishment of slander when you try to falsely accuse somebody, when you bear false witness.
Yeah, I want to remind you guys that Satan he's not confined to the churches. Okay. His deceptions are not confined to people who think Shabbat is canceled. His deceptions are everywhere. And where he gets us in this crowd is completely with the conspiracy rabbit holes. And I'm not saying it's wrong to go down them or that there aren't conspiracies, but when there's stuff that we just outright cannot prove, no matter how we feel inside, it's still better to just not speak on it. You can believe something might be a false flag. I have questions about what happened, okay? But I am not going to go online and say definitively, oh yeah, this was all fake. This was all a hoax. I'm not going to do that because I can't prove any of that. And God will handle it in the end. Whoever truly committed that crime, whoever was really responsible for it, God knows, and he's going to deal with those people at the judgment. And I take solace in that. But if I'm not sure on something, God has just been showing me increasingly over the last few years how serious of a sin this is to him. and how this is one of the things he hates and abhors. And I just want to encourage, our community gets caught in that snare constantly, and we fall for that trap of Satan all the time, to make a post and oh, I'm not saying anything, certainly, but this just isn't right. This guy wasn't true. This, I just want to encourage you. And it's not even about that, like, speaking against the Lord's anointed or anything. It's just, don't come into agreement with the accuser of the brethren. Please, think about your salvation when you're ready to accuse someone of something, because it is a salvation issue. Being a false accuser can keep you out of the kingdom. That's slander,
Yeah.
So
1 Corinthians 6:9.
So I just wanted to warn everybody.
We're running out of time.
Yeah,
Here.
I know. I'm done. I'm off my soapbox. I just want to encourage people, please be careful how you use your tongue.
All right, everybody. Good word, my love. Good word. Good reminder for us all. Guys,
People.
love God, love your neighbor. That means everyone around you. Go walk in love as much as possible. Keep studying the word. Thanks for joining us here as we do so. You guys are a blessing. We'll see you next time.
Love you guys. Shabbat shalom.